The world is filled with unsolved mysteries, both mundane and terribly shocking. While not all cases are gruesome in nature, they certainly are confusing. These few cases have attracted the attention of mystery-solving amateurs and media alike. No matter how much time and hard work has been put into them though, they remain unsolved and absolutely mind-boggling. Number 5. An unidentified 67-year-old man was rummaging through the garbage in an empty alley when he discovered something both shocking and confusing in October of 2016. A pink box inside of a dumpster in New York's Lower East Side held an actual human heart. The man, who was likely looking for food or goods he could sell, discovered the heart and immediately contacted local authorities. A medical examiner was sent to the scene to collect the item and any information along with it. The finder explained that he found the box at the bottom of the dumpster with a potted plant. He claimed to have opened the box under the assumption that food was inside, but instead he came face to face with a misplaced human organ. Officers initially dedicated their efforts to finding the owner of the potted plant. However, it's speculated that the plant and heart came from two entirely different sources. The running assumption was that whoever disposed of the heart used the unrelated plant to try and conceal it. Several tests were run on the heart, some findings confirming that the heart came from a human, but there were no DNA matches that could lead officers to a suspect, or further explain the shocking find. Forensic scientists tried to connect the heart to an already open case, but were unsuccessful. In fact, to this day, no new information regarding the heart has been released. Initially, officers suspected the 67-year-old homeless man was a responsible party. Some speculation suggested that the man was working with others in the black market selling human organs. For some reason, in theory, this heart was deemed useless and was thrown out. However, the homeless man made up a fictional story about finding the remains, in fear that they would be discovered later anyway. Keep in mind, this was just a theory created by officers, and no official evidence supports this possibility. The likelihood of the heart being used on the black market, however, could be very true in this case. Shortly after obtaining the heart and running countless tests, officers confirmed that they were unable to locate the source of the organ or any evidence leading to a person responsible. Shockingly, this case is not as unique as you may think though. Various human organs have been found all around the US, thrown into dumpsters, buried in the desert, or even laid right on the side of the road. Number 4. The Havana Embassy mystery began in December 2016 when a CIA officer reported to the American Embassy's health office in Havana. The officer reported that he was suffering from a variety of uncomfortable symptoms. The unidentified officer, known as Patient Zero, reported feelings of nausea, headache, and severe dizziness. A few days later, 2 more CIA officers arrived and complained about the same symptoms. This trend continued, and by late 2018, 26 Americans and 13 Canadians had visited the clinic describing similar ailments. However, as the case went on, other symptoms were experienced by both of the groups. The list of symptoms included, but wasn't limited to, vertigo, nosebleeds, headaches, nausea, vomiting, and trouble focusing. At first, it seemed as though this was a new disease that was opening, and unfortunately affecting others. A deeper investigation, though, found that many patients attributed their symptoms to a strange noise. Some described the sound as high-pitched, while others said that it was a beam of sound pointed at them. In every case, the sound occurred while officers were in their homes or hotel rooms, making the case even more suspicious. An additional team of medical professionals were called in to investigate the odd case. Many of them found that the patients were suffering from concussion-like symptoms, despite there being no identifiable signs of a concussion. The first and most popular assumption was that the Cubans near the Havana area had invented some sort of noise torture that they were inflicting upon the officers. Obviously, this couldn't be confirmed, it was more of a speculation or a rumor. The accusation was also changed in late 2018, when officers in China began exhibiting similar symptoms apparently originating from an acoustic tune. Later research into what became known as the Havana Syndrome showed that affected diplomats were suffering from an unknown, newly found disorder in which persistent concussion-like symptoms were experienced. According to Wikipedia, MRI tests performed on the patients showed differences in whole brain white matter volume, regional gray and white matter volume, and cerebellar microstructural integrity, and a functional connectivity in the auditory and visuospatial subnetworks. Essentially, the entire format of their brain had somehow been damaged or affected. Most officers recovered from the disorder and its symptoms after only a few weeks or days. However, another group of diplomats suffered for months at the same time, and a few others are still struggling with the issue to this day. There's no cure or countermeasure found that could cease the disorder. In the cases in which these symptoms vanish, patients claim the issues have just randomly stopped. Research into the cause of the Havana Syndrome is still ongoing to this day, and it remains one of the most confusing, concerning, and mysterious disorders to affect a group of people in modern-day history. Number 3. The Mary Celeste was an American merchant ship that was found abandoned in 1872 in the Atlantic Ocean near the Azores Islands. The story of this ghost ship has been one of the most notorious mysteries to ever occur in the sea, and has been the source of vigorous research and debate for 140 plus years. On December 5, 1872, a British brig was sailing through the Atlantic on their own business venture when the captain spotted a large ship in the distance, seemingly floating with no direction and showing no sign of life aboard. The crew of the British brig, De Gratia, sailed next to Mary Celeste and climbed aboard to investigate the situation after their shouting to the crew went unanswered. Aboard the vessel, De Gratia crew members found that everything was perfectly organized and seemed neatly packed away. A pump to a lifeboat was found on board, and the ship's required emergency lifeboat was missing, implying that members had simply abandoned the ship. However, the reasons remain unknown. No sign of damage, sinking, or sail trouble was found on the ship. In fact, 6 months worth of food, drinking water, and alcohol was found near the cargo, meaning the crew had plenty to survive on. Overall, everything was in top-tier condition, which made the ship even more of a mystery. Why would a crew abandon an entire ship that showed no signs of danger? The ship was deemed seaworthy by the captain of De Gratia, who planned to split his crew in half, one half sailing on Mary Celeste and the other on De Gratia. This would allow them to claim salvage under the maritime law. Theories have been born covering everything you could imagine, from sea monsters and mutiny to pirates and ex-slaves. Of course, most of these theories either fall short or simply can't be confirmed. The concept of mutiny, pirates or an ex-slave would likely have left behind signs of violence or chaos. Pirates specifically would have stolen the supplies on board and likely the ship as a whole. However, it's also agreed that a captain would only abandon ship in such a way if the circumstances were extremely severe, and nothing found aboard the ship suggested a dire situation. When the De Gratia crew claimed salvage on the ghost ship, officials were suspicious of foul play, assuming the crew may have attacked the Mary Celeste passengers and stolen the ship. At least 3 months worth of investigating was performed on the Mary Celeste, and no evidence was found to consider De Gratia crew members as responsible for the missing crew. They were awarded 1/6 of the ship's value. In 2002, a documentary filmmaker named Anne McGregor began investigating the case for an upcoming documentary. During her research, she found that the captain's chronometer was not working properly, which led them 120 miles off course. The captain allegedly planned to dock sooner than expected, but changed course in an effort to seek shelter from harsh weather conditions. However, even with these troubling conditions, it still wouldn't have been enough reason to entirely abandon the ship. Furthermore, it doesn't explain how the crew completely vanished on the sea, despite them being a reasonable distance from any shore. You can find an abundance of theories regarding what actually happened on board, but without documentation or witness reports, the truth may remain a mystery forever. Number 2. Since the dawn of time, there have been millions and billions of writing styles used all across the world by different cultures of people. Many of these styles have been studied carefully and decoded by professional historians and language experts. Thanks to this hard work, a majority of ancient writing styles are now easy to translate. However, some styles remain a mystery despite the devoted efforts and professionals in the field. The most notorious mysterious writing format is known as the Voynich Manuscript. This item is essentially a book filled with an unfamiliar writing system. The book was discovered in 1912 when a book dealer named Wilfred Voynich purchased it at random to find the pages filled with very important yet confusing text. Early on, professionals examined the pages to find relations to other languages, but little has been confirmed. As of now, the book serves as the only evidence of this writing system, which is extremely unique in comparison to others. The book was carbon dated in 2009. It was written sometime between 1404 and 1438. This suggested that it may have been written during the Italian Renaissance in Italy or a close region. After this find, the text was compared to other writing samples from the era and was ultimately found to not be a match. Details showed that the pages were ripped out of the manuscript at some point, leaving a remaining 240 pages. The text is described as moving from left to right, much like English. Drawings and diagrams can also be found in the manuscript, mostly using ink. However, there are also areas of paint inside and outside the book. The illustrations are more confusing than the text though. Many pieces seem to have diagrams in a spiral format. Others show what appear to be vases or clay sculptures. Perhaps the most strange drawings are those of nude women posing with sketches that resemble organs such as intestines, hearts, and lungs. Experts have compared the illustrations to modern-day medical models and found shocking similarities which may imply the manuscript is a medical journal. However, if that is the case, the presence of nude women is unexplainable. The book has since been cataloged, but many PDF and JPEG images can be found online showing the pages of the manuscript. While countless theories are constructed concerning its origin and writing system, nothing has been verified. The Voynich Manuscript is still the most mysterious piece of text ever discovered. Number 1. Encephalitis lethargica is the name given to a strange, unexplainable sleeping disorder, which became widespread in 1916 to 1930. According to records, at least 500,000 people were victims of the disorder in Europe when the issue first began. Apparently, after infecting Europe, the disease spread across the world to other countries where it affected thousands more. According to Neurology Times, the symptoms in the early stages of this ailment did not initially suggest a single disease as the cause. The symptoms included strange neuropsychiatric behaviors and an overwhelming lethargic sleepiness, which induced a coma-like state as well as muscle rigidity. Some literature from the time described the patients as living statues who were able to breathe and perform bodily functions, proving they were still alive, but were unable to move in even the slightest way. In fact, limbs and muscles could barely be moved by medical professionals. It was eventually understood that the disease was attacking brain function, not bodily symptoms. Sadly, most patients suffered respiratory failure as a direct result of the neurological effects. While most patients passed away due to some factor of the illness, a fair amount luckily survived and eventually overcame the living statue syndrome. In the later years of the epidemic, people responded well to Parkinson's medications as a solution to their muscle tenseness. The odd thing about this, though, is that it appears to be a disorder triggered by genetics or physical injury. But it spread like the flu, leaving patients highly contagious. To better understand the confusing nature of these details, imagine cancer being contagious. An influenza outbreak occurred somewhat around the same time as a living statue outbreak, and doctors believed that they could have been connected, but most tests failed to confirm that. There have been very few modern-day cases following the epidemic, but they have occurred sparsely. There's still no solid answer as to what caused this disease or why exactly it happens. Living statue syndrome is yet another medical mystery that may remain unsolved forever. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated with our videos. And if you enjoyed this narration, maybe consider checking out my personal channel at youtube.com/ty_knots.